Welcome back to the Dino Dungeon Devlog. This time we're going to focus on game feel and make the platforming much more juicy. Dino Dungeon is my first commercial game and you can wishlist it on Steam. I've been watching these videos by Tim Burr, and Tim Burr creates games using geometric shapes and they're quite simplistic. And to enhance the game feel, here he's using a squash and stretch on the square. I don't really know how to go about doing this for myself, but I found this tutorial by Aggressive Combustion Game Studios that showed me that you can put the sprite renderer on a separate game object and scale that object. Having moved the sprite renderer to this new game object, which is parented at the feet of the character, when you scale it, it squishes. Is it me, or is Yellow Dino looking kind of thick? I made a jumping animation, and I also went to the effort of making a landing animation too, which is very violent, and it's time to stick them in. Here's what the regular jump looks like without any squash or stretch, and when we add the squash and stretch animations, it's much bouncier. Look at him go. The real magic here is that the regular sprite animation is completely independent from the squash and stretching. This didn't take very long at all, and it adds so much to the game, but it could still be juicier. Games Plus James made a video on how to make a better platformer, and here you can see that his little character actually has a little dust trail. I tried doing this myself, however, my dino looks like its arse is on fire. Unity's particle system is quite fiddly when it comes to small values. After a lot of tweaking, I finally got something that I'm a bit more happier with. Also, when the character jumps and lands, there's little poofs on the ground. I will probably tweak it a bit more later. As long as I've got something to work with, I'm happy. The few times that I've managed to get Dino Dungeon in front of someone this pandemic, occasionally they miss a jump, and usually they're pressing jump. They're just pressing jump a fraction of a second too late, so they're not touching the platform anymore. So I decided that I needed to implement a late jump. Otherwise known as coyote time, all it is a small timer that allows the player to jump even though they're not grounded. The coyote time is set to 0.2 seconds, which is a fifth of a second. I think it's just enough if you miss the jump, but also I could put it up more. I just don't want to make Celeste. It's also important to remember that the player should only be able to do this if they are moving downwards. If they're already moving upwards, you will accidentally create a double jump. The opposite is jumping too early. This is me trying to jump just as I touch the ground. Listen to the space bar. The Dino Dungeon ground detection is actually done via raycast. It will shoot a raycast from the center of the dino down to see if it's standing on something, and if it isn't in the dead center, it will try at the sides of the dino to see if it is standing at the edge of a platform or an object. So we can just make that raycast longer, so now if I play a jump in slow motion, you'll see that it can detect the ground before the sprite has actually touched it. And for the most part, this works pretty well. You can even see that the particle effects are being spawned above the ground. I added this trail onto the dino just for the sake of inspecting the jump arc, and as you can see, it is a perfect parabola, equal on both sides, and this is nice to see, but it doesn't feel that fantastic. I decided to increase the gravity when the player is falling, and now the arc is much sharper on the way down. I think a lot of people call this fast falling, but I prefer to call it heavy falling because it really feels like your character has that much more weight when hitting the ground. There's one last change I'd just quickly like to make. When I make these thumbnails, I always increase the contrast, add a vignette, tweak the colors, and I think the game should look like this because I'm making the thumbnails look like this. So I took the game and I added post-processing. The vignette is super subtle, but I think it adds a good amount of atmosphere, and the contrast of everything makes the game way easier to read. You can see the foreground and the background much clearer than before. Also, I just like how vibrant the dinosaurs look. It looks fun, it feels fun, it's an improvement. Let me just squeeze in another thing. I added sound effects. My sound guy, Fred Bucks, at fredbucks.com, he makes the music for Dino Dungeon, he made me new sound effects, and I'm very grateful. This is the sound of jumping and landing. Each dino has a different death sound. Red dino goes. Blue dino goes. A yellow dino goes. He even made a sound effect for shuffling a box. There's also new particle effects that I added, and when you kick the box, there's a landing sound. I think that's plenty. to start the year off. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons who supported me the entire of 2020. As a thank you, on Patreon you will find a 25% off my merchandise on Teespring. Yes, I have a Teespring. There's this hoodie. You can get these t-shirts. There's yellow on black and black on yellow. But if you ain't got money to spare, don't worry. You can still support me morally on my Discord server. The Dino community Discord server, we have a leveling system, we have a meme bot, we have an RPG text adventure. Promote your videos here or post your work in the show off channel. All are welcome. And remember to hit the bell button so when I make something at my end, you receive it on the bell end.